right from the beginning, I think it was the end of January 2020, we knew there was going to be an issue because we had thousands of account signups from East Asia, from Hong Kong specifically, of people trying to buy masks from the site. So it was like the canary in the coal mine. But yeah, I mean, there are going to be ongoing issues, no doubt. And the biggest piece of advice that I'd have for any individual or any group is to diversify your supply chains.
If you're comfortable, you're not growing. Welcome to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I am the CEO of SMC National. We are a dental marketing company that helps you have predictable new patient flow. So today I get to interview Scott Drucker. He is the president of Supply Clinic, and I'm excited to dive into the show today. Scott, first, why don't you tell us how you got into the dental industry?
Yeah, sure. I am a periodontist myself, so a dentist by background. I still do practice. I practice 1 day a week, and I spend the rest of my time building and growing Supply Clinic. And so I suppose the more interesting question would be how I went from the practitioner side of things
because it's interesting. So here's something that I've learned from this show is that the dentists all end up in the dental industry on purpose. Usually influenced by family members is what I've seen, like my uncle, or I had my dad or my mom or somebody in the dental industry, and then they got in, and then everybody else is here on accident. So everybody else is like, oh, I was just like doing marketing, and then I got a dentist, and that's what happened to me. I'm totally in dental by accident. Is that true for you? Did you kind of get into the dental industry on accident, or how did you end up being a dentist?
Yeah, good question. I was always liked the sciences. Both parents are physicians, and actually both encouraged me to look at dentistry as an option, dealing with all the frustration around.
So more work-life balance, right?
Bureaucracy and hospital systems. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And so you chose dentistry, and then what made you jump from being a dentist to doing what you do now?
Yeah, so I experienced, I suppose we, as a student, didn't get much of a practice management education. Took a course with that title, but I think there's real opportunity in general for organization and for sort of that business perspective to step in, and why the private equity world has been so impactful in the DSO space. But I had to buy my own supplies for residency, and I really didn't know what to do. Talked to a couple faculty. I was over at dental school at Penn in Philly, and they said, hey, talk to your local rep of XYZ big dental supply company, and talk to a couple of the local reps who were happy to, for the prospect of getting the business. And I got them my list of supplies, got my price quotes, and shopped around, and realized that, I was told I was being given a discount, but that wasn't really the case. I could find pricing much lower. Than
everybody gets a discount.
Yeah, than my so-called new dentist discount, or whatever it was at the time. And just sort of started digging in and realized that the experience shopping, trying to achieve lower pricing, was really frustrating, and pricing was really opaque. And there had to be a sort of better way, a better system to do it. And that was, the Supply Clinic's first product is a marketplace for dental supplies, and that was just born out of frustration of a bad experience.
Hey, sorry to disrupt the show, but I just have a quick commercial for you. We are going to be hosting 4 events over the next 12 months, and we're doing a little bit of everything for everybody. We have something around Full Arch. We have something for those that manage marketing. We have something for those that want to scale their practice at Dykema. And then also we have something next year that's for everybody in your practice to learn business skills and to really maximize the opportunities for you to grow your offices. You're not going to want to miss these. Visit smcnational.com/events. These are going to be the premier events that you're going to want to go to make sure that you're getting the tactical skills that you need to continue to grow the way that you want, because at SMC, we're all about growing. So how much did you help start the company, or did you kind of join the team that was already there?
I co-founded the company.
Got it. Okay.
Co-founded with a brother of mine who is not a practitioner, not a dentist. He's the smarter one of the two. No, but He's more of a business and numbers and data background.
So you got completely out of dental. So you said, hey, I'm done practicing as a dentist. Is that correct?
No, I still practice a day a week.
Okay. That's right. You said that. Okay. I caught you. Okay. And then, so now you're practicing a day a week, but now your main focus is on the supply chain. So what are some of the benefits of making that transition? And what are some of the things that have been hard that you didn't realize that would come along with making that transition?
Difficulties of starting your own startup in general, I'm sure.
Yep.
SMC didn't become what it is today overnight.
We just flipped on a switch, started posted a YouTube video, and there we were.
Yeah. I see you on LinkedIn all over. Whoever your marketing person is, tell them they're phenomenal. I mean, there's so many different challenges throughout, and the challenges evolve for sure. But we basically looked at this and we said, okay, we want to put together. I guess I can answer your question in a number of different ways. The first is recognizing I have expertise and perspective from the practitioner side, but there are various things that I don't know and I need to learn. And so, things that come with the territory of what we do as firstly was an online marketplace, and now it's a procurement software, is e-commerce in general. Just getting the crash course in e-commerce and understanding healthcare supply chain and organization structure, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think there was a ton of learning from the get-go. That's one element of the challenge. By definition, we're a two-sided marketplace, and so scaling that is its own beast, where you've got to get buyers and sellers on the platform on each side, and scaling that up. And I mean, over the years, different challenges definitely present. What problem were you actually solving outside of just clear pricing? What were the problems that you were like, hey, I got to get into this because I want to solve this pain point? Because the pain point had to be pretty big if you were willing to start a company around it. Yeah, so absolutely. Pricing transparency was first and foremost the frustration. I could sit next to a friend of mine who has an account with the same company, with the same rep, and pull up a product and have a different price for it. And then in order to actually achieve price savings in the market, it was very time consuming. It involved going around site to site. And so basic concept is, hey, there's got to be a way to aggregate all this information and just put it on one spot where any practitioner or assistant or office manager or whoever's doing the ordering can pull up and shop by product page and see who sells the product at what price and add it to their cart and check out in a single cart. So there was a lot of, I think the two biggest frustrations were, one, I felt I was overpaying, and two, I thought that things were pricing was being obfuscated intentionally. And so the sheer lack of transparency was troublesome.
So how do you guys solve that now? So now if I'm a dentist and I'm like, hey, I hear you loud and clear, this is a pain, and we got all these big companies out there, right, that have all these tricks and things up their sleeve that I can't even begin to guess at. How do you come in and solve that problem now?
Yeah, sure. Simply put, we make everything visible to everyone. So we have our marketplace. Our sellers can choose to list or not to list on the marketplace, and they control pricing, and they essentially compete for the business of the practices that shop through us. So as we scale, from the seller perspective, from the distributor, the prospect of the business grows and grows, and there are just natural marketplace forces that come into play, and pricing is generally better. It's also free. Just like if you're an Amazon Prime member, you may pay for Amazon, but otherwise anybody can go on and just shop around and see what pricing is available and check out and buy. And so that's the sort of in a nutshell, the philosophy and how we operate. We're not telling anybody, hey, you have to pay money to be part of this buyer's club or anything like that. No, it's just, hey, here's what's available, and you can choose to buy it or not, and that's fine. If you're getting a better price on something elsewhere, obviously do that.
So how do you make sure that you end up getting the best pricing? Like how do you guys make sure of that? Is it just purely supply and demand of the site and what people are willing to pay, and it's just like, hey, your gloves aren't moving the way they used to, or is there something else there?
Yeah, so we don't actually ever claim to have the best pricing on any given product or any category of product. Just by nature of a marketplace environment, we are super competitive. And so I encourage anybody. I mean, you can search by, you don't even have to log in or make an account, search by product or item ID or manufacturing code and see for yourself. And I mean, the team here does a ton of price comparisons and digging into spend data. And the savings are tremendous. I mean, not just double-digit % savings off of catalog pricing, but often north of 20 or 30%. And everybody thinks they're getting a good deal. And so my message is just check. It takes 2 seconds to take a look.
Can you kind of compare and contrast, right? So there's obviously a lot of big companies out there. Could you give me some examples of people who are doing this side of business wrong, incorrectly, and what makes them doing it incorrectly? Like, how does that impact the dentist directly?
Wait, are you asking your question from the perspective of like a vendor on the industry side that's doing something incorrectly, or
Sure.
of a practice or DSO?
No, not a practice. Yeah. So the practice is a lot of times, and this is what just having conversations with other people about supplies is like a lot of times you just don't know what's happening as it's happening, right? So you're just busy ordering gloves or bonding or something like that, and then all of a sudden prices spike or something crazy happens, and your billing goes crazy, and then you end up talking to a rep, and then reps drive up the prices, right? Just having that middleman, and the rep is there just to try to secure so they can give you discounts on certain things, and that causes all kinds of problems, right? So what, from your perspective, from a business model as a dentist, which I think that gives you a unique perspective, what are people doing wrong out there as in your industry, and how are you guys solving that? Like, how are you approaching it differently?
Yeah, sure. So it goes right back to the beginning when we started this, the perspective was, okay, we now live in an age of e-commerce, and e-com has existed since the early to mid 90s, right? And this may be controversial or a controversial perspective, but I would argue that the vast majority of what the typical practitioner purchases, they don't need someone to handhold and help guide the process and also pay a huge, increase in price for that. If you have a very, very rep heavy model, your cost of goods go way, way up, and somebody has to bear the burden of the cost, right? So, not to say that there aren't certain categories of products where or situations where reps are extremely helpful and useful. But I think that for the vast majority of consumable products, it's just silly. It's kind of, the cost does not need to be so high. I don't need someone to show me how to put on a pair of gloves or use the composite I've been using forever or whatever.
Got it. Okay. And then what are your thoughts on right now? I know during like COVID, prices got really, really crazy. And then right now, I'm reading an article right now. I just pulled it up. It says China's COVID wave threatens another snarl of U.S. medical supply chain, and the U.S. efforts to lessen the healthcare system's reliance on China will be tested in the coming weeks and months as coronavirus rolls through China. So we're not dealing with the same problem as we did here before, but it's similar, right? So what are your thoughts on that? What's happening in the world of just supply chain from medical things that we need every single day?
Yeah, we watched it. I mean, right from the beginning, I think it was the end of January 2020, we knew there was going to be an issue because we had thousands of account signups from East Asia, from Hong Kong specifically, of people trying to buy masks from the site. So it was like the canary in the coal mine. But yeah, I mean, there are going to be ongoing issues, no doubt. And the biggest piece of advice that I'd have for any individual or any group is to diversify your supply chain. So if that just means, hey, have multiple distributors or sellers that you have relationships with, take the time to establish those relationships so that you're not, far down the pecking order when something is short.
So how would I do that? Like if I was a dentist and I'm busy, right, and I have the guys that I like and I use them, do I go in and start building relationships with other people?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as picking up the phone and making a call to a company.
Start ordering some stuff, just ordering certain things to them.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think diversifying where you order from is a maybe the best thing you can do as sort of a hedge against these issues. But yeah, order from elsewhere, but just have the conversations. And well, there's a lot of advice, and the advice may vary for the individual practitioner versus the DSO, because we work with a whole bunch of DSOs on our procurement platform, and the process and the relationship is somewhat different, or it should be anyhow. So, it's often not in the beginning, and then systems are implemented, and proper steps are taken to really organize things. But yeah, absolutely. On the DSO side, I mean, I think what's necessary, first of all, DSOs should be going through cyclical RFPs. So every 1 to 3 years, say, putting their book of business out to bid again. I mean, number one, just opening up that process.
So when you say DSO, everybody, like anybody, technically, anybody with multiple doctors, right? Your DSO, your dental service organization, right? So that's the technical term. Now, not everybody's legally structured as a DSO. Some people are groups. Some people don't want to be DSO. So when you say DSO, like, are you talking about people with 5 practices, 10 practices, 100 practices?
I mean, the bottom line is it doesn't really matter. Even if you're an individual office, it's good to revisit that and let whatever seller you're working with know, hey, I'm open to others. I'm talking to other groups, etc.
So that keeps your prices down, right? They're not going to raise your prices.
Foster a competitive environment, and there's no harm in that. I mean, they're a business at the end of the day. They're going to, if they get upset about it, so be it. That's on them. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the larger you grow, the more leverage you have with buying power. But even as an individual location, you should be taking advantage of things like the marketplace we built. Like 100%. There's no reason not to start. And I don't know what the magic threshold is for being able. I mean, it's a spectrum at the end of the day. I'd be making up a threshold, and so the larger you are, the more you can and should be negotiating and leveraging your scale. And, I mean, that's the bottom line.
And what are your thoughts on? Do you guys do gray market materials and things like that? And what's your guys' approach and thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. Not at all. We don't touch gray. So we have very strict rules for our sellers to maintain the security of supply chain effectively. We verify purchase all the way back to the manufacturer. Obviously, if it's a manufacturer selling, it's their product, they can sell the product. But beyond that, we make sure that the product is, or the company rather, the seller is authorized to sell. So we'll call and document and check all the way back to that manufacturer. And sometimes there's a multi-step supply chain. So it's sold to the NDC, and then NDC sell to distributor XYZ, and we'll follow through and make sure that things are clean. And we have a very open policy with our sellers. We say, hey, you tell us if something looks funny. We'll hide the item or the category or prior seller, whatever it is, immediately, and we'll look into it.
Do you feel that gray market materials are a bad thing, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, I know so it's a nuanced question. For disposable consumables, things like bibs and cups and things that end up in the trash, that really aren't temperature sensitive per se, there's probably no huge difference. But anything that could be temperature sensitive and goes in and stays in the mouth, I mean, there's potential for a bad result, right? So a cement spoiling or a impression material foiling, and you getting a bad impression and a bad fit of a prosthesis or whatever it is. I mean, if that product is rerouted and sits on a heated truck somewhere, or heated ship somewhere, sure, it can go bad. And the bottom line is we don't touch it. It's not worth the exposure for the difference in margin. I mean, how much
do you think that's going on? I've heard, I ask everybody about this that has to do with like the supply chain and stuff, and I always get different answers from people. Some people are like, oh no, it's everywhere, you can't even stop it. And other people are like, it's not that big of a deal. Where do you fall on the scale of how prevalent gray market materials are in the United States?
Oh, I don't on a like percentage basis of supplies that are sold in the States. I wouldn't be able to tell you, but my take on it is there is a cohort of the dental or practitioner population that just won't care. And if you just don't care, you're always going to be, essentially seeking bottom barrel pricing, and it is what it is. And and that portion of the population will always exist. And
Are you saying that dentists sometimes pinch pennies?
I would never say that. Yeah.
As a dentist, do you ever pinch pennies?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
No, it
think
is.
so.
Dentists like to go deep into things. That's the way I look at it. They, whether it's saving money or whether it's, and that can be great in some areas like dentistry, but it can also cause problems, to your point. Like, you're going to save that next penny on a product.
Yeah, I'd say there are ways to be smart about lowering costs, and that's not one of them. You're much better off, forming relationships, even if, forming new relationships with multiple different sellers and putting your own business out to bid, and the price is going to go down. Like, it just will. There are ways to get aggressive with pricing, and I don't. To me, that's not worth the risk. And you can say, oh, well, does it ever really matter? I've not ever seen an issue, and yeah, I've heard all the same things. But as a individual practitioner and as a business owner and operator, it's just not worth the exposure.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Perfect. What are your thoughts? What would you tell people out there that are like actively looking? So our audience is like 4 to 5, 6, locations. Some have more, some have less. If they're just like, hey, I'm kind of new to this, I've kind of just used one guy my whole life. What's your advice to them in starting to understand this and really take advantage as they grow to keep cost under control?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so if your biggest target is, say, 4 or 5 whatever locations, they're just sort of getting into the swing of things where they're starting to implement the same practice management software across the board, the same accounting software. I think that it's first of all, it's never too early to start taking a look at your bottom line, especially now and as we move forward with challenges that exist with whatever the practitioner labor market, et cetera, et cetera. I'd say so start having the conversations, and we do so because we have a procurement platform where we can essentially facilitate any negotiated pricing and our marketplace pricing. We provide resources to groups, and so we will just give away, just to be helpful, guides to completing an RFP. So, hey, what the heck is an RFP? Like, okay, let's get folks to negotiate for your business, right? Like, you are more valuable than your business is more valuable than you may realize, and there are certain steps you can take, and we'll map that out for folks. And so, yeah, I mean, I suppose encourage folks to open their eyes, and even if you're going from whatever it is, you're shrinking your supply cost from 6 or 7% of your profit down to 4 or 5% or whatever it is. Those points add up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And when you talk on, when folks are putting their groups up for sale, there's a multiple. And it's
So
very
what kind of numbers are we talking about? Like, if at an office level, what are we talking about on the savings side?
Yeah. So, I mean, just, if you talk about, there's a bit of nuance to dig into here, but I'll just sort of set the landscape for you. A typical practice spends about $50,000 a year in supplies. So if 2% of that is $1,000, and they can save $1,000 per location, for whatever it is, a 10 location, you're now talking $10,000, 100 location, et cetera. Just do the quick math. And there's probably more than 2% that can be dropped across the board. Now,
is that pretty standard? Like, if you go out and just kind of work your inventory every 6 months or so, you're going to be able to look to save a couple points, or is it? We
see massive range. So okay. Folks, especially in that,
who's saving the most? Who are the people out there? Because I'm thinking, like, if I'm the listener right now, right? Who are the people out there that are not like, are the most ripe to be able to save the most? Are they coming from a certain kind of company? Are they coming from a certain demographic or a certain area or a certain size?
Typically what we'll see, well, it doesn't exactly correlate all of the time, but typically the smaller groups, and so anywhere from 5 to 10 or 15 locations hasn't been through the process before. They've just had their, the main location has their rep that they've trusted forever. And that's just what they've done. And so naturally there will be the most savings to be had the smaller you are. So when you're a 10 location, you're in a different world than when you're a 100 location and have probably been through a number of turns of negotiation. So by far and away, just dollars and cents wise, the smaller the group has more to save. Now, that being said, we've seen groups that are 20 or 50 locations that have not been through the process before. And it's like, oh my God, this is
massive savings.
This is tremendous. And we'll start digging in and open up and look at spend data from the offices and realize that they have 20 different accounts set up with the same vendor, and they're paying 7 different prices across those locations.
Wow.
For the same SKU. Yeah, there's usually a pretty big kind of cleanup process, and the most to be saved the first turn. So if your core audience is that sort of, whatever, we'll call it 5, give or take, or 10 location group, that's absolutely the perfect to start.
Got it. And then what are your thoughts around, as these offices start to grow? One of the struggles that I've seen with offices is how do we even manage our supplies? You know what I mean? Because when you're at one location, it's hey, we're out of X, order it, or you have it on recurring, order it every month. But then when you start to have 5 locations, 10 locations, 20 locations, how do you set that up? Or do you guys help with that at all? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we do have an inventory management component to our software for our multi-location groups, our subscription software. That said, there are a number of different options of inventory management solutions on the market, and I would argue that none of them are good because they all require a human being to do data input work.
Yeah.
And solution is sort of a separate conversation, maybe for another day, but ultimately, the best suggestion I have for folks who are just starting to get in the rhythm of this process is have your one designated person at each location go through and start by going through once a week and establishing an ordering day of the week, and that no orders can be ordered outside of that day. And it just sort of starts establishing a rhythm of, okay, I'm going to go through, I'm going to check, and Mondays or Wednesdays or whatever is the day, that's the day. And ultimately, you want to be down to 1 or maybe 2 times a month, and on a regular rhythm. But just even implementing the 1 day a week rule spares.
How does that save time? Just because you're unifying everything and pulling it all together, or is there other things that I'm not?
It habitualizes being organized, and there's a ton of last minute overnight ship charges. When you're putting in, somebody's paying for logistics, and when you order something for the next day, unless you're fairly large DSO and have negotiated free overnight shipping from one of the super robust distributors, somebody's paying for the shipping. And so it's likely you, and you're going to be accruing all of these shipping surcharges, with these one-off orders of this single SKU that you realize you didn't have for your procedure tomorrow, kind of. And so that just cuts back on all of that right out of the gate, and gets the location in a good habit.
That makes total sense. Got it. And then I'm going to change gears on you really quickly. I just had an idea pop in my head, and I'm curious of your thoughts on this. So during Thanksgiving, when you go in to buy food, what the grocery stores are really good at is they know that you want the turkey, and they know that you want it at the best price to get you into the front door, right? So what they do is they drop the prices of the turkeys ridiculously. They don't make money on the turkeys. They actually lose money on the turkeys. But
it's a loss leader.
Yeah, it's a loss leader. Exactly. But when you buy turkey, what else are you going to buy? Because you're not going to go to a different grocery store. You're going to buy stuffing, and you're going to buy olives, and you're going to buy all this other stuff that comes along with the turkey. So what the grocery stores do is they actually increase the prices on everything else. And so they put this turkey out there for way less. You think, man, I'm getting the best deal ever. This is so great. And it's just a competition to how low you can go without giving it away for free. And you're literally losing money, but then you're making insane margins on everything else. And you can't really feel it as the consumer, right? You actually feel good that you got the turkey. So it's kind of like a win-win-win for everybody. But at the end of the day, you're actually spending more because I'm not going to go to 5 different grocery stores, right? Even if I was to figure it out. Does that happen in the supply world as well?
what dental distributors would never play that game? Of course that happens. The biggest, I guess the most glaring example of this is we have on our procurement software for the multi-location groups, we provide them the ability to essentially input all of their special negotiated pricing, and so that's all up there in their accounts. When they log in, they can search by product, lidocaine, cotton rolls, whatever it is, and pull up that product, and they'll see that we'll call it a formula, or just negotiated price right up top. Now, if the group wants, they can opt to also have our marketplace, our third-party marketplace, which has nothing to do with what they've negotiated, visible, on and visible. And there's a tremendous amount of spend, even for fairly large groups, that happens on the marketplace, because there are so many of those other items that all the secondary and tertiary items that are not as expensive as that turkey or whatever the big ticket item is, that groups just don't have the wherewithal to go through when they're negotiating. They're going by category of biggest ticket item, or whatever it is, or CapEx or what have you. And then there's this super long tail of products that nobody is going to bother or have the time or patience to negotiate, because the negotiations are dragged on long enough, intentionally so. I mean, you can never leave a car dealership right away, right? So
yeah, let me hold your driver's license. Can we get a copy of your driver's license, right?
Exactly. And so it's no different. But now there's the ability to, as you're going through, do these real-time price checks on a third-party marketplace. And we're finding, of course there's a ton of that. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's.
So what's the turkey in the dental industry? Because I don't know. I've never been in, I'm scared of the dentist. So I don't. What is the turkey?
Yeah. I mean, the bigger ticket items, obviously your equipment. So your big dental units, your scanning, milling, printing.
So we'll give you a great, as this happens, so we'll give you a great deal on all of your, really big machine that you're about to buy right now. And you're looking at it going, man, I'm going to save tens of thousands of dollars, but you have to order all your supplies through us. Is that how it works, or is it not?
Oh yeah, sure. That dynamic is quite regular. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And so what are the other turkeys in the dental industry? The equipment?
Capital equipment. And then typically things that are looked at more carefully, are a lot of the branded items that are cements or composites, or bottle of 1 to 5 milliliters of something that's some exorbitant amount of money per milliliter kind of thing. Those are, what kind of trails off is everything that ends up in the garbage at the end of the appointment. And
okay, that's what my next question was, is what are the things then that what's the stuffing that is marked up crazy, but you don't really feel it?
Yeah, most of the throwaway disposable type stuff.
So gloves.
Well, historically, yes, I'll say. During the pandemic, things got wonky, but yeah, things like gloves or bibs or cotton rolls or masks. Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. Well, this has been really good. This is informative, and it helps me understand how the dental industry works. So I appreciate you coming on. If there was somebody listening right now and they go, you know what, I want to learn more about this, I want to see how I stack up against everybody else I'm working with, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, anybody can reach me, Scott@supplyclinic.com. Pretty straightforward. And we're more than happy to help out, whether you're a single location practice looking to start looking at expenses with a finer tooth comb, or you're a multi-location group and you want a platform to run everything through and also save on all those non-turkey items. Just reach out. We'll loop you together with the team, and we'll do the comparison for you and see how we can help.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.